So the thing that we're going to talk about today is hope. Hope in relation to circumstances of life, hope in relation to mental health. I deal with people and I interact with people and help people throughout my day while I'm working in the mental health field. So like when clients come in and I'm interacting with them, one of the questions I ask them typically is, what does your future look like? If you can paint me a picture, what are you hoping that your future looks like? Or what's in your future that you're hoping for? And you would be surprised at how many people just blankly stare at me and they pause and they say, Brianna, I have not been asked that question in quite a long time, and I have not even thought of a future past my current circumstances, past my reality that I'm experiencing right now. So they just are stunned when I ask them a question, and they look at me, and I'm just like, it's okay. I want you to sit in it. I want you to think of anything, even if it seems far fetched, even if it seems like it can't happen, right? That's what hope is for. Hope is to give us something to look forward to, right? It may not be in the present moment, but maybe that's what our imagination can bring about. And I feel like as we get older and as we become like mature adults who are in this thing called life, who have different responsibilities, who experience different things, it is hard for us to have an imagination, like that childlike imagination that it talks about in the word. And I see that a lot when I'm working with my children in play therapy and all that kind of stuff. They help me to bring my imagination back full force, because when you're interacting with children, they have the wildest imaginations, and it's like their reality is whatever they think of in that moment, right? And so it's like for us as adults, we have experienced so many things, whether that is trauma, whether that is just the stresses of life, paying bills, financial stressors, losing a loved one, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, all these different things some of us experience, right? It all looks different for each and every one of us, but at the end of the day, we have all experienced something that has made us potentially question, what does my future look like outside of this? What am I even hoping for? How can I even get to the point of hoping again? And I feel like when I ask these clients that and they start to think about it, I give them that space to just play with it, imagine, because I know that they have not experienced that. Because when we're going through different things, when we're dealing with anxiety, especially mental health, right? When we're dealing with anxiety, when we're thinking about the depression, how hard sometimes it is to even get out of bed, how hard it is to take care of our hygiene or show up in a way that we know that we can show up. When we're dealing with these things that we don't maybe quite understand, if we're dealing with fear that paralyzes us to interact with other people or have an attachment to other people, it is easy for us not to be able to see past our reality and our circumstances of things. So if I'm going through depression right now, it is easy for me to just think, oh my goodness, like, is this ever going to end? Am I going to always feel like this? Will these always be my thoughts? Will I always be driven by fear or filled with fear? Will I always have this anxiety when I'm interacting with people? Will I always fear abandonment? Will I always fear getting attached and loving again? All these things come through our mind, and sometimes we can't think outside of those circumstances, which again, it's understandable, and it's something that I bet a lot of us have dealt with in a part of our life or in a season of our life, whether that is something that we dwelled on for a long time, we're dealing with it now, or it's something that was just a quick little snap of the finger. I had that thought, but I know I can dream again. I know I can hope again. And I think that it's so important for us not to lose sight of that. Whenever we are going through it, I love to ask my clients the question, because I know that they haven't thought about it. And I want them to see that potentially there is something on the other side of whatever they may be facing or whatever they may be going through, and for us to use our imagination to build that future. Sometimes how do I say this? There are things that are standing in the space that hope once resided in. Whether that is abandonment is now filling that space that hope once lived in. Whether that is fear is standing in the space that hope once took that feeling, or it just filled that place. Whether that is grief is now taking the place where hope once was. Whether that is anxiety is now taking the place where hope once was. Whether that was depression that is standing in a place where hope once was. What was it that caused us to get away from our hope? What was it that caused you to think that there's no future for you? What was it that you just sat in that moment and questioned? Is this ever going to end? Is there a breakthrough on the other side of this? Is there something that is going to come from this? Is there something different that I can even just step into? Is there a future for me? Is there something for me to hope for? And I want you, if you're struggling with this, to take time to ask yourself, what robbed me of my hope? What experience, whether it was traumatic, whether it was just life in general, stress of life, financial difficulties, the election, different things. Like sometimes what impacts me may not impact you. What impacts you may not impact me in the same way. So whenever we are dealing and interacting with people, we have to keep that in mind. If something did not interact or hurt me, like for instance, a car accident. Me and my husband got in a fender bender the other month, a couple of months ago, I think. And he was okay to continue to drive. He wasn't like fidgety whenever we got in the car. We were driving behind people. And you know, traffic is traffic up here. So he wasn't like that. But me, on the other hand, if we got even close, or if I thought that we were getting too close to a fender bender, I tensed up a little bit. Some situations does not impact you how it impacts another person. So before you judge them for, oh man, how would you let hope just, you know, disappear because you went through that? How could you say you don't have a future just because you experienced that? Trauma and experiences impact us all differently, and we have to give people grace when they're going through and processing these different things, these different events. Going back to the discussion of hope, when we have lost hope in different areas, it's almost like we allow ourselves to fill that space with whatever it is. So like for instance, if I lost hope, or I couldn't think that my knee was going to get better, right? And so I began to like cope or deal with it in a way that started to encourage me to fill that space with my emotions or my feelings or what I was feeling for it with different things. I would overeat to try to cope with it. I would compensate. Some people may even like lust or have a moment or season where they're just trying to have sex to distract themselves because they feel like they don't really have anything to live for. They drink. They may even do drugs. They may do X, Y, and Z. You know better than I know what it is for you that has filled that space where hope once was. So it could be something that you're coping with. It could be like the thing that happened to you. So again, the abandonment, the fear, the anxiety, the depression. So again, ask yourself and reflect, when was the last time I had hope? When was the last time I could easily think of my future and not feel ashamed to even think outside of my current circumstances? Is your current circumstances consuming you to the point where you don't have any hope anymore? Because where hope does not reside, that gives us the opportunity to become in a dark space, in a space that nothing grows in. We don't grow in, we don't evolve in, we're not able to fully blossom into the people or individuals that we're supposed to be. So if you're going through that now, I know when you're dealing with different mental health things, again, like the anxieties, depression, other disorders, maybe you've been diagnosed with something and you don't understand how is it that I'm going to turn around on. I have had patients who have worked with other therapists, and because they have, you know, certain disorders, like for instance, one maybe has had bipolar disorder. When we first got together, she instantly said, you know what, I don't feel like this is going to work. I don't have no hope for this. I've been in this for so long. I don't think there's an other side to this. And I said, okay, I respected it. I gave her space to express what she's feeling. But for me, I wasn't going to just allow that to make me settle or make me do a half job when I'm interacting with her. So we've been in therapy for a couple of months now, and when I tell you this person is so different, she is different than she was the first time I met. She's like, man, like, I've been making progress. I'm starting to think that there is an other side to this. You know, recently I thought that I can find love again. I even entertained it. And when it didn't work out, I didn't get like bummed or disappointed. I just got back into it. Like I just gave myself that space to grieve that relationship that I thought was going to work. And then I just said, you know, what's for me will be for me. And one day that person will come for me. Or the job market. One is trying to find a job, was trying to find a job, and she began to lose hope. And all these different things take place, right? And it just takes being in that environment where your soul and where your body and your mind can be nurtured and given the right nutrients that it needs to even try to even think or cultivate that thought to, oh my goodness, I'm in this situation. I see the bills coming in. I see this coming. I see this happening in my family. I see this disorder has just been placed on me by the doctors or the counselors. I see whatever it is. You have your reality right in front of you, and sometimes it's so hard to see past that reality and that circumstance. But I want to challenge you right now to even think of it, even if it's like the smallest thought, the slightest thought. Challenge yourself to even think of something. Figure out what took it, what robbed it, and then now I want you to think, how do I get this back? I'm not asking you to think of this whole master plan. I was talking to one guy, and he was like, I lost all my goals. I don't have any goals for myself. I don't have any plans for my future because I've been in this for 2 years now, and I just lost hope. Like, I don't have anything to hope for. I don't see this just changing. And I just said, you know what? I understand. I understand that your circumstances is overwhelming. I understand that you've been going through this for a year or two. I understand that this is impacting you because you haven't been here before. You went from being hopeful and having goals and having the career you want, interacting with people, having those relationships, to everything seemed to be stripped away. I understand what you're feeling, but I want to challenge you right now to think of it. Think of something, even if it's small, even if it's like vague. I don't care if it's like broad. Bring it to me. Next session, he brought it to me. And when he brought it to me, it was like a light went off within himself. He said, you know what? I sat down, I wrote these goals down, and honestly, it switched something in my mental. He said nothing changed drastically in my circumstances. I'm still in the same circumstance that I'm in, right? But my light within myself, my mindset, my perspective have shifted, even at the slightest, and it's bringing me to the point where now I'm able to accept some things of what they are at this current moment, and then I'm able to see what I can actually change. He said, he looked at me, he said, Brianna, you helped me to get out of the victim mindset. You helped me to get out of the woe me, the self-pity party that he was in. And I'm not saying that you are full of, self-pity, or you're full of victimization and you're just consuming that. But this is just what he said to me, just by changing that one simple step. What can I hope for in this season? Even if a little piece of me may be questioning, like, is this going to really happen for me? Can this actually happen for me? It calls us to get out of our comfort zone, to push our imagination and our mind to see something that is not currently present. That's almost like what faith is. Faith is the hope in something that you can't even really see. And so when we lose that faith and we lose that hope, it can trickle down and put us in a space, in an area where it does not feel good. We're not able to grow. We're not able to blossom, to be who we're supposed to be. We're in that dark space. We feel alone. We feel hopeless. We feel like isolated. We feel like nobody wants to deal with us. Nobody really cares. There's a lot of things that come up when we feel like nobody wants to interact with us or love us in the way that we want to, and we don't hope for anything. We don't hope for anything, and so therefore that makes us not have the expectation that we could have. When we lack expectation, that means we're lacking hope. There's no hope in that place anymore. If someone disappointed me, I'll say this. So my father is not currently present. He was not present throughout my childhood. When he would come in, he would just be lying and then come out, right? And so I kept having hope. Okay, one day he's gonna actually come. He called, hey, we're gonna come. I'm gonna come get you and your sister. Be ready. Me and my sister ready. We dressed. We etc. I'm on the steps. I'm looking outside the window, sitting on the sofa. Time is rolling by. It keeps rolling. Car passed by. It's not him. Another car passed by. Starting to get dark. My mom is getting upset. Like, I know he did not lie to my babies again, getting their hope all, high and up and up. So I grew up and I'm seeing like this repetitive thing, and your relationship with your father can dictate how you look at men or interact with men. And I can say this, when I was growing up, I did not have a lot of hope for men. Now I love my granddaddy. That's one man that kept that little spark of hope alive in me. But as far as me seeing good examples beside him and a couple of my uncles, there was no, like, my first interaction, my first supposed to be love was supposed to be my father. He was supposed to teach me. He was supposed to show me. He didn't. And so it easily created this space where hope was lost. I expected him to come get us. I expected him to show up. I expected him to keep his promise. I expected him this. And when those expectations are constantly hit, constantly, our hope begins to be lost. You don't hope for anything for them. You don't hope that they'll be honest. You don't hope that there'll be a change. And when we do that, it's easy for us to misplace that expectation, that hope that we lost on everybody else. So everybody else had to prove to me that they were worthy to, in a big extent, of my time. Like, I remember growing up and they would just be like, why are you so stiff? Like, why are you so stiff on us? Because there's a bar and y'all not meeting it. And it's because my father hurt me and he abandoned me and he caused my expectation for you guys to be so low that if you're not even coming close to this bar, there's no hope for anything for us to even be anything. There's no hope for us to even have a cordial relationship that will go anywhere, right? And so I think that when we have dealt with experiences and we dealt with other imperfect beings and they have not met our expectation, we lose hope. And because we have lost hope, it shows up in different areas of our life. If I had a different experience than I did, I think that my relationship with God would have been different when I was growing up, because I placed his earthly, imperfection, flaws, and inability to keep his word and come, because he was dealing with his own stuff, onto God. And I have began to lose hope that, okay, God, how can you be different? My earthly father is doing what he do. What about you? Like, my hope was impacted by it because my expectation was not met in another area, and my hope was lost in the area. And so it went from it showed up in my interactions with other men. It showed up in my interactions with the guys in my grades or my school. It showed up in friendships. It showed up in just my interaction with anybody. It showed up. I'm just not even going to expect anything from other people because y'all are just going to do the same thing that he did. I don't have any hope for people. And when we do that, we set the bar so low for ourselves. And we typically, sometimes we may even tolerate things that we should not even tolerate. But with all that being said, I just want to say again, if you have been impacted by whatever experience it is, take note of it, pay attention to it. This happened to me. My father didn't show up for me. This guy broke my heart. This girl broke my heart. My family did this to me. I made this decision and it put me in this place, and I don't appreciate it, and I don't have any hope that I can even make good decisions anymore. My reality is my financial situation is stressful, or I have not so good relationships around me, so I'm losing hope. Whatever that circumstance, whatever that experience is, I want you to take note of it. And when you do that, you acknowledge it and you address it. We can't get through things that we don't acknowledge. We can't go and grow through something if we don't acknowledge that it's there. It's going to always be there. It's going to be like the shadow that y'all see behind me, following me. It's going to be like a cloud that's always constantly over me. I feel some heaviness, but man, what is it? What is it? Oh, I know what it is. I'm not even going to touch that. So guess what? The heaviness is still on you. And eventually you start weighing you down more and more. And what do you feel? That hope is lost. That hope is lost. There's a lot of things going on in this world. It's sometimes difficult for us to even think or hope for anything to change, if it can change, right? But I want you to be bold. I want you to look a little, what they may say crazy or delusional. I want you to hope for something for yourself, because you deserve that. You deserve to feel that switch in your brain, that rewiring taking place just because you thought of something, just because you thought of something outside of your circumstances. But with all that being said, I understand that you're going through what you're going through. I understand that you have experienced what you experienced, the betrayal, the abandonment, the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the diagnosis, the rejection, the grief. I understand. And just like I challenge my clients, I want to challenge you to think of a future. What are you hoping for? Are you hoping that this will change? Even if you don't fully believe it, write it down, make it plain, and just have it in your pocket. Because even when you're going through these circumstances, you can just pull it out and be like, man, I wrote this down, and I'm still going to be bold enough and of courage to think that this is going to happen for me, to give me a little bit of light, to change my perspective while I'm going through. But yeah, I think you're capable of doing that, even if it's small, even if it's broad. I'm going to, I don't even know a good example right now, something very broad. Let's see. If I'm going through something, I'm going to be able to come out of this. Okay, you can write that down. And then later on, I think you'll be able to even be more specific. I'm going to be able to come out of this through X, Y, and Z. This is what it's going to look like. This is what my future is going to look like without whatever it is, this financial difficulty, this diagnosis, this something. Even if your diagnosis never shift, even if you're not able to do whatever it is, even if, going back to that diagnosis, even if it doesn't shift, I've seen many people live with the different diagnoses they have been given with, and they still have hope. They still make it their business to try to even write down an ounce of hope for themselves, even if it's not shifting that diagnosis tremendously, right? Just like my client who came in, he was like, this shifted my perspective. This gave me a little bit of hope. He has a diagnosis and he has things that he's dealing with that they said may never change for him. But because he paid attention and he just gave himself the free will and the time to even think and use his imagination to hope for something different, he feels like he can do anything. And it has helped him navigate and attract different things in his life as opposed to what he was feeling and thinking before. So again, guys, I just thank you for joining me on another episode today. If this was something that you enjoy, comment, like, subscribe, share with a friend. This is a tribe, this is a family, and we're gonna, again, talk about all types of things. But today I just wanna encourage you not to lose hope. Even if you don't see past your reality, even though you don't understand, if you don't see how this is even gonna change, I don't want you to go another day without even questioning or pondering on what would my future look like if this didn't exist. And I just want to say again, thank you. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for another video. Bye.